Okay, now I'm gonna explain about the first material in the chapter 10 intermediate accounting. The first objective is to identify property, plant, and equipment and its related costs. But before that, let me introduce myself first. My name is Sagitla Firmansyah with the last three digit MPM 186. And next. So, property, plant, and equipment, also referred to as a fixed asset or plant asset, are durable, tangible assets that a company expects to use for more than one accounting period. They are primarily used in the protection or supply of goods and services, for rental to others, or for administrative purpose. Common examples include land, building like factory, warehouse, and equipment such as machinery and furniture. There are three major characteristics of PPE. The first characteristic is to acquire for operation, not for sale. So PPE must be used in regular business operation. If an asset is held just for price appreciation or is sitting idle, it is classified as an investment. If it is being held specifically to be sold, like land by a real estate developer, it is classified as an inventory. Second is long-term in nature and usually depreciated. Because this asset provides value over many years, companies allocate their costs across future periods through a process called depreciation. The notable exception is land, which is generally not depreciated unless it experiences a significant loss in value, for example, like soil erosion or loss of fertility. The third and last one is to possess physical substance. These are tangible assets. You can see and touch, which distinguish them from intangible assets like patent or copyright. Unlike raw material, PPE does not physically become part of the final product being manufactured and sold. Next is acquisition of property, plant, and equipment. Most companies record PPE at a historical cost, which is the cash or cash equivalent price required to purchase the asset and get it ready for its intended to use. Because PPE is held for a long-term use in the business, not for immediate sales, historical cost is more relevant at acquisition than fair market value. Okay, now we criteria for recognition. For a cost to be recorded as a PPE asset, or capitalized rather than expense immediately, it must meet two conditions. First is the cost can be measured reliably. Second, it is probable that the asset will provide future economic benefit. For example, buying a new coffee machine benefit future period and is an asset. Routine repair only benefit the current period and are recorded as an immediate expense. So what costs are included? When calculating the total capitalized cost of a PPE asset, company include the purchase price. This includes the base price, import duties, and non-refundable taxes, minus any trade, discount, or rebates. Second is preparation and delivery costs. Any directly attributable costs required to bring the asset to the correct location and condition for use. For example, like freight, delivery, and installation costs. After the initial acquisition, company must choose how to value their PPE going forward. They can apply this method to all PPE or specific asset classes, like applying one method to land and another to building. Cost method, most commonly used, it keeps the asset at its historical cost minus depreciation. It is preferred because it avoids the expense of hiring a appraiser and prevent the higher depreciation expense and resulting lower net income that often come with revaluing assets. Second is fair value or revaluation method. It's like adjust the asset value to its current market fair value. Next is cost of land. It's the total cost of land includes all expenditure necessary to acquire the land and prepare it for its intended use. So what is included in the cost of land? When a company purchases land, the capitalized cost typically includes the purchase price, closing costs like title fee, attorney fee, and recording fee, site preparation costs necessary to get the land ready for use. For example, like grading, filling, draining, clearing. So the cost of demolishing and removing old building is considered a land cost, as it is required to prepare the site. But however, any money made from site preparation like selling salvage material or timber reduce the total cost of the land. Fourth is assumed application like mortgage, liens, or back taxes. If a company pays cash but also assume existing debts on the property, those debts are added to the land total cost. Last one is permanent land improvement that have an indefinite life, for example like landscaping. There is special assessment and land improvement. First is permanent or local improvement. It's like cost for relatively permanent improvement maintained by the local government like public sewer, street light, and pavement are charged directly to the land account. Second is limited life improvement. Improvement that have a limited lifespan like private driveway, fences, and parking lots are recorded separately in a land improvement account. Unlike land, these costs are depreciated over their estimated useful life. Classification of land. How land is classified on the balance sheet depends on its purpose. First is property, plant, and equipment. Land used in normal everyday business operation, while investment land held for speculative purpose or future price appreciation. When in inventory, land held specifically for resale by a real estate developer. The last one is holding cost for investment land. If land is classified as an investment and is not currently generating revenue, direct holding costs such as property taxes and insurance are generally capitalized added to the asset cost rather than expensed immediately. Next is cost of building. The capitalized cost of building should include all expenditure directly related to acquiring or constructing it from the initial excavation to the building's completion. So what is included? When constructing a building, a company should include the following in the building costs. First is material, labor, and overhead costs incurred during construction. Second is professional fees such as architect or engineering fee. And last one is building permits. Treatment of building or demolition costs. So if a company purchases land with an existing old building that must be torn down to construct a new one, the cost of demolishing the old building minus initial face value is not a cost of the new building. Instead, it is classified as the cost of the land, because clearing the site is considered a necessary step to get to the land ready for its intended use. So what is excluded? Costs that are not directly necessary to get the building ready for its intended use cannot be capitalized and must be expensed as incurred. For example, startup costs, promotional or marketing expense related to the building grand opening. Second is operational losses, which initial loss incurred due to low sales when the building first opened. And last one is general administrative expense. Internal company overhead costs, such as the expense of running the finance or HR department, should not be allocated to the building costs. Next is cost of equipment. In accounting, equipment is a broad category that includes items such as delivery vehicle, office equipment, factory machinery, furniture, and fixture. General rule for equipment costs: it's similar to land and building. The capitalized cost of equipment includes the purchase price plus all expenditure necessary to acquire the asset and prepare it for use. So what specific costs are included? When calculating the total cost of equipment, a company should include the purchase price, freight and handling charges, insurance on the equipment while it is in transit, the cost of any special foundation, assembly and installation costs, the cost of conducting trial runs. Next and the last one is self-constructed asset. When a company builds its own fixed asset like machinery, It must determine the asset cost without a standard purchase price, while direct material and direct labor are easy to trace and add to the asset cost. Allocating indirect costs like overhead such as electricity, insurance, and supervisor salary present a challenge. There is two approach into handling overhead. Company generally handle manufacturing overhead in two ways. The first is assign no fixed overhead. The company only capitalize variable overhead costs that directly increase because of the construction. Fixed overhead is excluded because those costs would have been incurred anyway. Second is assign a portion of all overhead. The company assign a proportional amount of all overhead to the asset just as it would for regular inventory production. Because this is the widely preferred method because it provides a more accurate initial cost and better matches cost with the future revenue. It is important rules. Next is important rules for self-construction. So when determining the final capitalized cost of a self-construction asset, company must follow these strict rules. First is exclude abnormal waste. Any abnormal cost for wasted material, labor, or other resource cannot be added to the asset cost. Second is cap at fair market value. So if the total cost of the building, the asset is higher than what an outside independent contractor would charge, the company cannot capitalize the excess amount. The excess must be recorded as a loss in the current period to prevent the asset from being overvalued on the balance sheet. Last one is the no profit recognized. A company can never record a profit just because it saved money by building an asset itself rather than buying it. So that's for my material. The next material will be presented by my friend.
So now I will explain about borrowing costs during construction using three theoretical approach. The first is capitalized no interest. In this approach, interest is viewed as a cost of financing, not construction, so it avoids cost depending on debt or equity ratios. And the second is capitalize all interest. Here, cost includes all sacrifice made to get the asset ready, meaning interest is a necessary cost of construction. And the third is capitalize actual interest. In this approach, only interest paid on borrowed funds during construction is capitalized. So basically the difference between these three approaches is how much interest we consider as part of the construction cost. And next, we move to three conditions for capitalizing loan costs. The first is qualifying assets. This is an asset that necessarily takes a substantial period of time to get ready for its intended use or sale. Examples include manufacturing plants, power generation facilities, investment properties, and large-scale construction projects like ship and building. So the second one is the capitalization period. It begins when expenditure for the asset are being incurred, and the second one is borrowing costs are being incurred, and the last one is activities necessary to prepare the asset are in progress, and capitalization stops if active development is interrupted for an extended period. So the last is amount to capitalize. So the amount capitalized is the lower of actual interest incurred during the period, or avoidable interest, which is the interest cost that could have been avoided if the project had no start. So the key issue here is determining which borrowings are directly attributable to the asset. And now let's look at the difference between specific and general debt. For specific borrowings, there are funds borrowed specifically for the project. The interest rate is easy to identify, and the calculation is actually interest minus investment income on temporary idle funds. For general borrowings, these are funds from corporate-wide debt. In this case, record weight average interest rate, also called the capitalization rate. So the main difference is whether the loan is directly tied to the project or comes from general company financing. So we move to calculation steps for borrowing costs. The first step is calculate weighted average accumulated expenditures or WAAE because project expenditures happen at different times. We cannot just multiply total expenditure by the interest. Instead, we calculate a weighted average, for example, a 1,000 million expenditure in January is weighed for 12 per 12 month, while in July it is weighed for 6 per 12 month. So the second step is select interest rate. We apply the specific rate to the portion of WAAE covered by specific debt, and then the average rate to the remaining. And the last step, which is the third, is compare. So we must ensure capitalized interest does not exceed total actual interest paid. So these steps help us determine the correct amount of borrowing costs to capitalize.
My name is Rajyusa Intan Andini with the lesson BM114. So in here I'm going to explain about the accounting issue that related to acquiring and valuing planned asset. So in here we are going to understanding how public organizations handle their most expensive items like machinery, fire trucks, or public buildings such like hospital and etc., which we call this item is planned asset. So what is planned asset? Planned asset is non-current asset that government intends to use for more than 1 year. These are not things that we buy to sell, but things we buy to provide the service. And there's two main issue that we are going to discuss in here. First issue is when do we officially record that we own an asset, and the second one is what price do we put on the balance sheet. So to dive in, let's continue to the next slide. Okay, so the first one is the timing of the acquisition. So in here, we are going to discuss about the issue when do we officially record that we own an asset. So in the public sector, we use a special method that's called encumbrance and obligation. So in here, in this concept, we record the full cost of an asset in the moment the contract is signed. For example, the government is decided to build a new bridge. Even if the bridge takes 2 years to build, the accounting system will mark the money as spent in the day the contract is signed. So this will prevent the government from accidentally spending the same money on something else later. And let's continue again to the next slide. Okay, the second is valuation. So in here we're going to dive deeper by the issue what price do we put on the balance sheet. So in here basically there's two methods in valuation basis. First method is historical cost or the original price, and the second one is replacement cost or the price if we buy it new today. So for example, we can think of a school building that already built in 30 years ago in 1990. If we use historical cost, we will value it at the 1990 price. But if we use replacement cost, we value it what it will cost to build that school today in this day. So the accounting issue is that replacement cost will give a better picture of the economic cost of education, but it is much harder for accountants to calculate accurately. So maybe that's all. So to wrap up, why do we have to care about this issue? It's about the integrational equity. So by defining, acquiring, and valuing asset correctly, we can ensure that the costs of these assets are spread fairly over time. So maybe that's all I can explain. The next material will be explained by my friends.
Now I'm going to talk about the accounting treatment for costs subsequent to acquisitions. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Rakuten Ramanana Navchawan with the last two NPM 416. In the accounting treatment for costs subsequent to acquisitions, it is mainly about deciding whether to capitalize or to expense. So, the cost incurred after acquisition is capitalized if it provides future economic benefits, and it is expensed if it only maintains the asset's current condition. So, the criteria for capitalizations are measurable reliably and probable future benefits. For example, increase useful life, increase capacity, and improve quality. Next, about the types of subsequent costs and their treatment. So there are 4 types of subsequent costs and they have their own treatments. First, the additions. It creates new or expanded asset capacity. For example, adding a new wing to a building, and the treatment is capitalized. The second type is improvements and replacements. It consists to remove the old asset. And for the treatments, if it increases future benefits, it is capitalized. Third, rearrangement and reorganizations. So it does not increase future economic benefits, only changes layout. For example, moving machinery within a factory. So the treatment for the rearrangement and the reorganization is expense. And the last one is repairs, but in this part there are 2 kinds of repairs, the ordinary repairs and major repairs. For the ordinary repairs, it only maintains normal operation and the treatment is expense. For example, cleaning, lubrication, or minor fixes. And the second is major repairs. It benefits multiple periods. For example, aircraft overhaul, ship dry docking, and the treatment is capitalized. That's all from my part, and the next will be presented by my friend.
For the last part of the chapter, we'll be explaining about disposition of property, plant, and equipment. A company may retire plant asset voluntarily or dispose of them by sale, exchange, involuntarily conversion, or abandonment. Regardless of the disposal method that used, the fundamental rule is depreciation must be recorded up to the date of the disposal. For the first method, we got sale of plant asset. When a company sells a plant asset, it must account for the time elapsed since the last depreciation entry. For the first step, we should update the depreciation. You must record the depreciation for the period of time between the date of the last depreciation entry and the date of sale. And the second step, we got to record the sale and calculate gain or loss. Is we count the asset current book value and determine if the sale resulted in gain or loss. For example, we got Barrett Group recorded depreciation on a machine costing 18,000 for 9 years at the rate of 1,200 per year. It sells the machine in the middle of the 10th year for 7,000. Barrett record depreciation to the date of sale as depreciation expense is 1200 divided by 2 since it's only just half of the 10th year. So we got 600 on the debit side, and accumulated depreciation machinery 600 on the credit side. So the entry for the sale of the asset is cash 7,000 on the debit side, accumulated depreciation machinery 1200 times 9 since 9 months, plus 600, the half of the 10th year, the 10th month. So 11,400 on the debit side. We got machinery 18,000 on the credit side, and gain of disposal machinery 400 on the credit side. So the book value of the machinery at the time of sales is 6,600, since 18,000 minus by 11,400 is 60,600. And because the machinery is sold for 7,000, the amount of the gain of the sale is 400. So we count it like 7,000 minus by 6,600. And we got the second method is involuntarily conversion. So involuntarily conversion occurs when an asset service is abruptly terminated. It might be due to unforeseen events like fire, flood, theft, or condemnation. The accounting treatment requires removing the asset from the books and recognizing the resulting loss or gain if compensation is received. So for the first step, we record the loss of the asset. When the event occurred, the asset and its accumulated depreciation must be removed, and loss is recognized. But in the second step, record compensation if applicable. If the company later receive an insurance settlement for the involuntarily conversion, it records the cash and recognized as gain. Like for example right here, Camel Transport had a manufacturing plant located on company property that stood directly in the path of tornado. As a result of the tornado which occurred on May 16, 2022, the plant was completely destroyed. Camel was eventually able to reach settlement with its insurance company for the full fair value of the plant. The settlement was reached on March 18, 2023 at the time of the tornado. The building had a carrying value of 3,500,000. Original cost is 6 million less accumulated depreciation of 2,500,000. The amount of settlement with this insurance company was 5 million. So the entry was like on May 16, 2022, we record loss from tornado 3,500,000 on debit side, accumulated depreciation buildings 2,500,000 on debit side, and building 6 million on credit side. While on March 18, 2023, we record cash 5 million on the debit side and gain from insurance settlement 5 million on the credit side.